2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Artisan Debt Podcast here in Galveston Island, Texas. I don't even know if that's part of the original title of the town.
It is now, Shay.
It is now. Fuck
that's
it.
how you figuring that out.
We are back in the studio with the regular co-host here, Emily Lopez.
Hey.
Hey.
Sorry, hey.
And on this episode, we got Torrina Harris, fresh off her feature at the Coastal Soul Poetry Night at Proletariat Gallery, downtown Galveston, 2221 Market Street. And also accompanied by Amir. What's your last name?
Amir Safi.
Amir Safi.
Yeah,
from the Right About Now.
You literally have like 30 shout outs on this show already.
Yeah, we
I don't know if you
listened
listened yet, but
That's so nice. I need to start
Everybody's
listening
like,
more
Amir,
to this
He needs to start
podcast.
paying for that.
Here were people talking shit.
no, good shout outs. No.
Always good shout-outs.
I mean, it's like about time, you know.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just jump right into, I guess since Torrina, you are the on the pedestal of the episode here. How did you
No
get
pressure.
started? How did you start doing your poetry? Because just from listening to you've been here for all 2 years of the Coastal Soul, and I noticed because I think first time I met you had dreads or long
Yeah, I
braids.
used to like 6 years to grow out my dreadlocks, and I was like, just kidding, and cut that shit all off. So that wasn't a shift in my life at all. But yeah, so I started. I guess my introduction to poetry was like Shel Silverstein and Pulaski and stuff like that. And so I grew up listening, or I guess like my mom read me a lot of that, and then like 4th grade was when I started having like feelings, like anger and like ripping up dolls. So I was like, what if, wait for it, like write about it instead of destroying trinkets from my grandmother. And now it's my full-time job, like poetry, not like destroying trinkets from my grandmother, unless I'm doing it with words.
Same thing.
No, it's awesome though, especially at a young age. I do like what you're doing. Torrina also is. You said so. I heard from the poetry night tonight. So there's a couple different chapters of Iconoclast, and you just oversee the Galveston.
So yeah, there's different parts of our program. So Iconoclast Artists is a nonprofit poetry and social emotional learning program. It was founded in Houston in 2014 by Marlon Lizama and Matt Russell. Marlon came here from El Salvador at 9, asked me if I've had to recite his Bible before.
I was going to say, this
pleasurably.
familiar.
And in 2017, they brought me on to expand the program to Galveston. And so there's, I guess, like 2 different areas that our program's in right now. And so I get the pleasure of, hopping around. Zach Blunt and I actually go to different middle schools and high schools in Galveston. And then there's a juvenile justice center up off Atwater that I get to go to. And there's like something annoyingly cliche in where the juvenile justice center is. Mm-hmm. Because before I moved to Galveston, I taught like anger management and drug and alcohol awareness, and I would go to the parole office. So there's like a line. The first one is the parole office, and I'd go there and present like, hey, you need this shit to stay out of prison. So I do that. When I moved to Galveston, I was a patient care tech, like a CNA, so like a glorified, like not glorified, it's a fucking hard job and important. Mm-hmm. But I was like changing diapers and like bathing inmates. My kids' unit sits right between those 2 buildings, and the portables classroom actually faces the prison that I used to work at. So my kids know what a colostomy is because I learned them real good. So, yeah,
absolutely.
So
kind of what your organization does is you go in, these kids that are having, maybe they grew up in hard homes, or they grew up in situations, or they got in a lot of trouble and they just need something to figure out, and you kind of just taking that energy they got, because no matter if it's positive or negative or angry, it's still energy, and it's kind of moving that in an artistic fashion. Is that just kind of...
Yeah, so there's a lot of, as far as like the social emotional component to it, there is a lot of trying to give them tools and means to acknowledge their feelings, because a lot of that, whether it's been within their home or culturally, it's just not something that our society really practices. Yeah. Especially when you look at the demographic that is most predominant in the juvenile justice settings. It is Black males, and that is the demographic that has the least amount of access to permission to have feelings outside of anger. And the actions that come out of that. Yeah. And so a lot of we do is, it's not presented as like this is a program for at-risk youth, because that's problematic. But a lot of what our resources go to is trying to serve youth from historically underserved communities. But the program's for everyone. It's not just like this is for kids that are like poor and get in trouble a lot. It's like this is for kids who would love to turn out as decent human beings, whether you go to OPI or Central, kind of thing. So
well, that's actually cool that through art you're like breaking through some stereotypes and some norms and like showing that it's like, well, like people have this artistic ability. Everyone's got that inside of them. You just got to find it, but also from your own personal experience, you're showing them how to redirect that and use that, because if you can channel that energy into something else, you can make something very beautiful.
Yeah, and the amazing thing, like in Galveston, has been to just to see the support and the buy-in from the community. I mean, I talk to my kids a lot. We had this conversation about Beyonce, Rihanna. They were too young to give a shit about Missy Elliott. But just looking at these like pillars, like these female voices in the music industry. And all I did is ask them, like, what do you think? What do you think of Beyonce, Rihanna? And I don't remember who the other person was. And they jumped to, like, comparing them. And so we have this, fun conversation about, like, who's the best. And then having to circle back around to, okay, like, the original question wasn't it, why do you guys think that our default is to, like, compare them to each other? And then the other part of it was, like, what does it mean to have a platform? And what do you feel like each of these artists is doing with their platform? What do you feel like they're doing with the access to audiences that they have? And if you had that, what would you do with it? And so a lot of what we do in Galveston outside of the classroom is these sessions. We just had one actually last Thursday. We'll have our big book release May 2nd. But what happens when we teach the value and the importance of taking advantage of an audience, taking advantage of a platform, of sharing your story? Why is your representation important? And what happens when we create access for you to have that? Because it's bullshit to run around saying, oh, we give a voice to the voiceless. Like, the motherfuckers can talk. Like, unless you're literally mute, I'm not giving you anything. I'm creating a space where you can use it and inviting people to participate and listening to you, because what you have to say is valid and relevant.
Did you only work in Houston prior to this?
No, I didn't. No.
Or are you from Galveston and that's how you got the opportunity to branch it out here? Like,
it was
where's
literally
the correlation and what's the difference for you between Houston and here in regards to teaching and projection and influence?
I've never lived in Houston. I used to move over 2 years between League City, Texas, and Yuma, Arizona. So the movie 310 to Yuma, that's where I grew up. I was working nights at a prison, changing diapers and bathing inmates, and going to church at Galveston Central Church, because like years before I moved to Galveston, I was at an open mic in Friendswood, Denbro's. It's just not a poetry open mic; it's a Taylor Swift covers. It's Friendswood, And I met this guy who was a worship leader at this like weird hipster church in Galveston on 33rd and O and a half. The building's old, like 130 years old. So he invited me to come do a poem. And that was the only people that like I knew in Galveston outside of like the anger management classes and things. And so when I finally moved down here and I was like, oh, like I want community, to stop getting engaged to random strangers or whatever, the pastor was like, hey, do you want to be our poet in residence? I'm like, what's that? And he's like, we'll just pay you to do poetry sometimes. And I was like, yeah. So it's a Methodist church. When Iconoclast was starting off, it was umbrellaed by St. Paul's UMC up in Houston. Okay. And so because of how the Methodist Church works, like the associate pastor there, who's also the executive director of Iconoclast, was cool, and had a similar like vision and like similar values as the pastor from Galveston Central Church. And so when I started working at Central, and my pastor knew about Iconoclast, he was like, hey, Matt, like I think there's this person who'd be really great if you guys ever wanted to expand the program. So this really wonderful white man who never met me was basically like, hey, do you want to stop changing adult diapers of people who killed their wives and teach poetry to children? And I said, yes.
Wow.
Like, no, there was, I tell them every day, I'm like, you took some risks. Like, and here we are.
Wow.
I want to.
I love you.
It's
so
amazing.
much.
And you were just saying,
yeah.
up on stage earlier, you say they you kind of release like an anthology or like a
Yeah, so every year, this will be our 4th volume. So every year we publish an anthology of student poetry. And it's from the work that we do in the classroom with the kids. Last year was the first time that they had Galveston poems and Houston poems in an anthology, because last year was the first time that Galveston was part of the program. This year is the first year that they're publishing 2 anthologies. One of the anthologies is in Spanish, Ellos Dicen, and then the other anthology is in English, because so many of our schools in Houston, I mean, we have some classes in Galveston too, but I can't speak Spanish like that, so I should not be teaching anybody in Spanish. It's an injustice.
And you're in Galveston.
Right. And so to kind of recognize that, and like these stories that, are just as deserving to be told, as the English ones, we're publishing 2 anthologies this year. And so that book release is May 2nd. It's like open to everyone. We'll have our students performing some of the dope-ass work that they've been busting their asses for all year. And it's at the Museum of Fine Arts, which is just like, God damn, like,
Incredible.
can you imagine, like, if we had that going on when we were, 13, like, Trump would not be president. Like,
I mean,
it would be different.
That's a really big venue. That's a nice venue.
Yeah.
Like these kids got to be stoked. And it's really cool putting the youth through situations like that. Like just kind of with, you have to create this art, but also, you have to showcase it in this venue. But it's really cool giving them that experience because they learn so much just from having that experience. And just kind of throwing out there because I remember the first time I had like a band performance like at school, like because I actually play drums now. I still love to play drums in a band, but that just happened by accident because I was supposed to play trumpet, and he didn't have enough like demo trumpet, so he's like, here, just go play snare drum. Like, okay, I'm in 6th grade, and then ended up loving it. And I remember like the first time I had like a drum solo, I was like freaking out, sweating bullets, but it was just for like our like little school play, and I had my thing and like spotlight was on and I did it. But I'll always remember that moment just being young because I was very, I was the only child, so I was kind of weird in public situations. So, but after that, like I felt so empowered and so confident, and like you feel good, especially when it's a new art form you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
But when you conquer that, it feels so good.
Well, even just the piece of like last week they were at the artist residency, and I'm like, like as an adult, like these spaces are freaking intimidating. Like it's taken me like building relationships with like the owners, to be comfortable in these spaces. And a lot of these kids like they live down the street and they've never been here. And it's like, what is it like to teach someone that like they're entitled to this space just as much, even though they don't look like the people who are usually coming here, even though their parents aren't donors, or on the board, like you're just as entitled, like you belong in this space just as much as like any other fool who like walks up in here, And that's something that didn't occur to me until recently. It's always been like, yeah, like I think they should know what's in their neighborhood, but it's like, no, like how do we teach people that they get to decide where they like feel like they belong, and that's not something to be dictated by like some dumb shit. So like
Yeah, it's more like knowing you matter than being told you matter.
Yeah, and like, who the fuck is anybody else to tell you? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Oof.
Exactly. So with your poetry, do you ever go to Avant for Right About Now?
Yeah,
Do you?
I do. Like, actually, the first time I went, I was like 19 or 20. I was living in League City still. I had a really shit job. It was a well-paying job. I had a shit boss. And I would just listen to like Right About Now videos back to back. It was this really small office with no windows and like wall to wall, like taller than me files that I was scanning, like medical records, legal records that I was just sitting there scanning 12 hours at a time from a dickhole boss. And I listened to, like, a lot of the poems I listened to were Amir's. And so, like, when I first started going to Avant, I was like, oh, my God, Amir Safi. Like, I had the biggest crush on him. But, like, I have a...
Those days are over.
The same.
I have a crush on everyone.
Ridiculously the same.
Yeah, it is.
Poet crushes are, like, easy. Like, they're not easy, but, like, you fall easily for poets.
Not no more, man. Like, I don't really fuck with poets like that.
What is this?
So, honestly, though, no. So... My boyfriend's here.
Oh, yes.
But
He's a poet.
before we were like,
Oh, y'all are.
My girlfriend's here as well.
Y'all are
What just
public.
say? Like you
Y'all
fell
are
for a
putting
poet?
titles on it. now?
No, I was like intentionally like for a while I wouldn't like listen to his
Your fake
poems because I was
surprise
like,
is cute.
I'm not trying to like you for your poetry. That's stupid. I'm not trying to be a poetry groupie because those are real.
It's a real thing.
Like, it's a real thing.
You know,
Amir knows.
What? What do I know? It wasn't me.
Get Io's face off of my face.
well,
Whoa!
Oh, I love having Io's face on my face.
This is a late night podcast.
it is a late night.
It is an early
podcast.
morning podcast.
Early morning. I actually do have to say though, kudos for your piece though for Torrina up on stage that you threw out.
All the feelings. We are not talking about
We're
it.
not gonna talk about it, but kudos. But kudos. That's all I'm gonna say is kudos. That was dope. That was rad.
I have a really amazing community.
Yes, absolutely, and it's been great seeing it grow over these past 2 years, especially since there's the Coast of Soul, but with the Iconoclast coming up and just watching these kids come up and like it's been really cool. It's really cool what you're doing for the community. Absolutely. And speaking of the communities, like Amir, I didn't even know. About my friends shout out Frank Nitty and the Grime Lords, but they go to they do like Wavy Wednesday, you know. So I always went to Avant, you know, after all the poetry had gone on, and then whenever Zach was coming to Costa Soul, I'd be like, yeah, we do poetry night right before that, because I'd run into him there at Avant all the time. I was like, Zach, what is up? And then, but then since we've been doing these podcasts, I've been hearing more and more about it, and they've been bringing you up. So it's really awesome to have you here.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for having me.
Talk about an OG.
Yeah.
I know. Again, like 30 previous shout outs. Now
Emphasis
you're here.
on the O.
Oh, come on.
So are you the founder of Right About Now?
Yeah, we started about 5 years ago.
Awesome. How did that get going?
Okay, so that's an interesting story. I used to run a poetry nonprofit by the name of Mike Check in Bryan College Station. And then I moved to Houston for work. And I was kind of over organizing for art. I was burnt out. And when I moved to Houston, I moved in with my friend Gibby. I was my best friend growing up, and he was actually getting married at Avant Garden. So he invited me to go check out the venue with him. And he introduced me to the venue owner, and the first thing he says is, this guy used to run a poetry venue back in Bryan, and I've been trying to convince him to run one here in Houston. And Mariana, who's the owner of Avant Garden, basically told me about the history of poetry at the venue and told me how she wanted to have a steady night back. She gave me the night I wanted, the time slot I wanted, and some other requirements I would have to do one. And I mean, the name of the venue is Avant Garden, you know, and I kind of believe in signs like that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So we just started, doing open mics and poetry slams. The first event was actually a poetry slam on my birthday.
Awesome.
Because if you didn't show up, you're a jerk for not coming to my birthday. And that was a big event, but then the rest were kind of small, and we just grew over time.
That's awesome. It's also if anyone listening hasn't been to Avant Garden in Houston on Westheimer and Taft, right? It's the intersection it's on. It's a fantastic venue. Shout out Mariana for everything she does. Stephanie, my girl right next to me, her sister Ashley got married there on the 1st.
Oh, congratulations!
For New Year's.
Who was your DJ? Do you know who your sister's DJ was?
I do not.
Was there a DJ?
I'm certain there was.
Yeah, no, there was, because he
I feel like I had
totally
seen
played the
videos of your
Casper
sister's wedding
slide.
for that date. Like, I'm just thinking of the date.
Well, that's awesome. So, did you guys pause? You know, for the poetry episodes, we usually like to throw out a little piece. If y'all wanna, if y'all would like to jump into a piece, possibly.
Amir, what
Go ahead, Torrina. It's your feature night.
Y'all wanna flip a coin? I got quarters.
Nah. Let me see. I wish I would have thought about that sooner than this very moment.
I'm accountable. I should have been like, hey.
No, it's okay. I've listened to the podcast before. Amir just criticized
And I talk
me.
about how I don't do it. So.
Oh, okay. Amir artist criticized me because he says I only memorized one poem. So I'm gonna do.
I literally have never memorized a poem ever,
I
like
used
fully,
to.
like, and performed it. So
Let me see. Not gonna do the one about dancing because it's 2 fucking a.m. and we're not in the club, so I'm not dancing. Okay, this one's like really old. I'm pretty sure I've done it at Avant before. I was maybe 18 or 19 when I wrote this poem. All of the angst minus the like lack of direction, but it still kind of like resonates. They ask me what I'm looking for. Sorry, whoa, just kidding.
Rewind.
I rewind. I asked them what they're looking for, and they said a piece of mine. They ask me what I'm looking for, and I say peace of mind, the whole kind, looking not to road signs, fearing not when the road winds, kind of peace of mind. But that tends to be the most difficult to find. So help me find my smile. Remind me how to laugh. Turn me towards my future and away from my past. Pass by the change, dry up the rain, take away the pain till no more remains. Wash clean the stains so we can start again, 'cause I am much too old to lie. Lie by and try to deny how I feel inside. Beside the obvious you play oblivious to, then deny the cause of this disastrousness was you. So to you, adieu. To you, I'm through this anew, new wings I flew, the dust I blew, the wind has blown, though never at home, I am never alone, so no more, I will go through that door, I will seek and find something never found before, and I will explore, conquer and claim, make mark and start, prevail, remain, fight to survive, and strive to be uncut in the raw, inevitable me, so take it or leave it, accept it or cheat it, but never in life or dream defeat it. From gone to new, from old to clear. Something made clear. Shit. Yeah, I don't know. It's in a notebook somewhere. So that's part one. Because part 2 is somewhere in an 18-year-old journal.
No, it's awesome though, especially because, was that one of the first pieces that you did? Because you said you started when you were around 7 or.
I started like performing, because a lot of the venues like won't let you in.
Yeah.
Because they're at bars. And I didn't have a 21-year-old body at 17, so cool. 17 is the age of consent in Texas, actually. But yeah, so that was one of the first ones that I had memorized. I actually started, so before I could go places to perform, I would just like record them and post them on Instagram. And it's funny because I don't really do that anymore, but I used to post like whole poems on Instagram. I've never seen that. No, because it's an different account, different Instagram account.
Oh, who are you?
And so it's on the same hashtag. And so, like, that's the only way you'd find it, the Eclectic Menagerie hashtag. Were you about to say something?
Let the search begin.
I'm just going to say, I'll remember.
Hidden secret Instagram account.
I can't do it now because I'm enthralled, but later, ooh.
Yeah, so.
A past life.
Yo, I've had a few.
I'm ready.
I've had a few. But yeah, so I used to memorize to post on Instagram. And it's funny because there were people that I had like these real, not romantic, but like these other poets that I would connect with because of that.
Yeah.
And I was like 17. I'm 24 now. And one of them just added me on Facebook. And I was like, yo, I've been listening to your shit since I was like 17. Like we've known each other since I was 17. It's like, yeah, I just saw your Right About Now video. So that's been really cool. Like reconnecting with a community that has always been there. Could be real creepy, but
yeah, I was like, you translated that well, and because I felt you doing it, I did the same. But you never know.
It gets real bad real fast. But yeah.
He might listen to this podcast, so
hey Jay.
Oh.
There's another poet that did that, but I can't talk about them.
Oh, that's an anyways.
Yeah.
That's an anyways.
A foot fetish.
Outside of foot fetishes.
What is happening right now?
Yeah, and Torrina being our feature, and it's National Poetry Month. I think it's considering that. I think it's a really great opportunity to have you here, Amir, and in consideration to the fact that there's a pretty large connection in our features for right about now and here, and the audience that's been created in between, and we have a lot of poets and features that have came on to talk about the right about now scene and the Houston scene and how such correlation takes place. But we haven't had you here to talk about it. So
I'm
that's
happy
really
to be
cool.
here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like anything in particular about right about now that you do want to say? In respect to all of that, obviously.
Also, feel free to shamelessly plug anything you want.
Yeah,
I don't
you
mind.
could do that.
Yeah, sure. So,
I can't.
sorry, it's on the spot. So basically, I started right about now, or even getting into poetry, because it was really interesting, actually, especially my entry into slam poetry, because I did not like it at first.
Same.
I got dead last in my first slam. I was a salty little minnow over it. And I didn't like it. I thought, because you say your poem louder, you think your poem is more right. But then I kept coming back, and what I noticed about it, which I thought was really cool, is I feel like most conversations, people just wait to say something. They're not really listening to what you say and responding.
It just
to
happened
it.
with us when I was like, hey, Amir, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect example.
Okay, thank you,
When you
Emily,
have to
for
say
that
right
example.
about now, and you're like, oh,
Very honest example.
maybe something.
But anyways, so I really appreciated that people would sit and listen to someone, hear them out, and then clap for them and what they had to say, or support or react to it, and then I really thought that exchange was unique and honestly pretty powerful. To be able to just communicate and have a room full of audience feel like a real human connection.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed creating those spaces to amplify the poet's voice, especially when you look at like the literary world. A lot of the opportunities to be heard or be seen are in the Midwest, Northeast, West Coast.
Yeah.
Maybe even like Florida is pretty good, I guess. But but Texas, Florida has a lot of opportunities, a lot of book festivals, a lot going on in the literary world down there. It's popping. You don't think so?
Specified what kind of opportunities you're
Oh,
referring
okay.
to.
Yeah, no. I don't. Why is it like this? It doesn't need to be
We
this
just
way.
see some content, girl.
Yeah. Whoa. This is going
Look,
everywhere.
I have to call you out, Amir, for filling these fillers.
It's getting wild out here.
Hot in this-
Everybody is like highly on some crazy delirium.
I think
shit.
everyone's really tired. Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody's like, rub my eyes. By the way, I got this joke. Maybe
But in Texas,
we're really talking about.
But in
the poetry
Texas, so
scene. Yeah,
we wanted to amplify people's voices, specifically people of color, marginalized voices, and so we started doing a scene, and I thought, well, how do we share this with other people? What's happening here is really special. So I got with Brady Ware, and we started shooting video, and then Chris Diaz came on along the way, and then what I really like to do with art is kind of repurpose the same material to a certain extent to, once again, amplify the artist's voice even further.
Yeah.
So we had the live show, so we're like, let's start filming it. So then we filmed the live show, so then we share that with everyone, and then we started doing a podcast because we already had the audio from the feature.
Yeah.
So we do a podcast where like a host would comment on the feature set.
Wait, you ever write about it on a podcast?
Yeah, we did it for a while, but
I was like-
we haven't done it in a while.
Okay,
but
so I'm not late and just
no,
it's
no,
not
no,
happening
no.
at
Well,
this
you
moment.
are late, but it's just not.
I mean, how late? Because
I'm not
I've
late.
only been going. When did you listen to it?
I know about it.
Oh,
You knew about it? Yeah. 2. We got 2.
Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna exclude myself out of the late crowd.
It's on the
because,
website.
Come on, these people should know before I fucking do. Like, really? In all honesty.
But
Okay, so yeah,
yeah, it's just kind of what we do, I
you
guess.
started out with all those outlets.
Yeah, we tried
there you
to
go.
just figure out how can we share art in a new form. Like, for example, we started a literary magazine called Litter, a Twitterary magazine. Iconoclast Palomo over there is published in it.
Sweet.
He's into it.
His most prestigious
He woke up for that.
publication.
He's got a room full of
He's not
celebrities right now.
delirious
you
for
know?
shit.
Hey, if litter is in your author bio, I'll do a backflip. I won't land it or complete it, but I'll do it.
That's like me doing my taxes. Like, I'm not going to submit them, but I'm going to do them.
I'm gonna
Did you?
Oh damn!
I get a refund. Fuck yeah, I did.
Did you submit? Okay,
I-
good.
in
Good
January.
job.
I was about to say you're
I
2
get
days
money
late.
back. Like,
Oh, okay.
Y'all must not be on that 1099 gig. Come on,
no, ma'am.
1099 gig.
No,
I'm
ma'am.
paying
Oh man,
every year.
yeah, it's a hard one.
It's alright.
Speaking of a hard one.
Oh,
Why are you like this?
Hold on. Yo, chill
wait.
out.
What
I
are we
was just
talking
saying,
about? I don't
like,
know. What are you like?
How hard is it for you to find a poem to share with us?
Oh, it's a.
What is it? Whoa.
It's a my.
Whoa.
You're so aggressive.
I know, it's my
I
voice.
like it. I like it.
I have a really aggressive
So I'm happy to
voice.
do this podcast during National Poetry Writing Month,
Hey yo.
and I wrote a poem during this month, and I like to share it. It's called "A Conversation with Your Grandmother or Your History." Same thing.
Oh, okay.
What happens when your mother tongue becomes your second language? Is this what we call a transitioning neighborhood? When you call your grandmother to wish her a happy new year and all you know how to say is, "I'm good, they are good." You ask, "Are they good? Work is good, I love you, goodbye." Till the next birthday or holiday. Your mother reminding you to call her mother, and this is how we hold on to a slippery lineage. Can't you see everything is good here? If you look at old photos, you don't have to take new ones to see what you would become. A spotted pan in a new kitchen. A child, arm fully stretched, pointing out to your mother a "Have a paiement" streaking across the sky, but you say "Have a plane" this time, and everyone laughs as the English hatches from your lips. The first day of the Iranian New Year is spring after all, and the sky is as blue as your eyes are not. Everyone laughs and asks you to repeat what you just said. You were the cutest child once. Only now you have to ask your grandmother to repeat herself. Bebakshi, please excuse me. You're not cute enough anymore to be illiterate. The conversation is dependable as coffee shop Wi-Fi or as smooth as chopped brisket. But your grandmother doesn't make you feel bad about what you can't say or try to diagnose the forgetting. She just wants to talk to you and hear that you're doing good. This is a tea us Iranians know how to serve.
Okay. I appreciate that poem a lot. My grandmother, like, I love my mom a lot. Like, my grandmother's, she's up there. Like, she actually flew from Arizona to watch me talk about poems for like 2 hours, and then flew back from Arizona. So like very intimate.
Oh,
like,
wow.
That's
where
love right there.
She's like the one person in the world who makes all of the like most unacceptable parts of me feel like natural and normal and like justified and entitled. So like I love that. Just that piece of the understanding of like, you know, she just wants to know that you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that actually that really goes a long way because that's something like my grandmother. She actually listens to this podcast.
Oh,
Shout
sorry,
out!
Grandma.
No.
Oh, that's so
Grandma's
awesome.
cool.
No,
Okay.
she's cool.
Grandma's cool.
Yeah, but no, what's really cool is because she tells us that all the time. Because you know I'm horrible with like texting and returning calls sometimes. I mean, just you know, like even though people look at their phones a lot, people don't at the same time. So like I'll just forget, and I'm notorious for just filling my plate up with too many things. But, you know, she told me all the time when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I used to be like, oh, you know, she's like, you know, I just want to hear your voice. That's all that matters. And as my teenage mind is like, what? Like, doesn't make any sense. Like, I just want to hear my voice right now. Like, what's the difference? You know, but there's not always a right now, and there won't always be a right now, you know. And, you know, especially, you know, from her situation, you know, whether it's like some like a health thing or like whenever I get sick, you know, because they've been through a lot. You know, they've been here 3 times longer than you have. So, you know, they've seen everything go around multiple times. But just thinking about how important it is just to respond back with a hey or like hello. And especially for a lot of people, you know, that have lost their grandparents and or maybe have never even met their grandparents. You know, they don't get to experience that. That poem really hit me right there, where it's just like, you know, just respond, and whenever you see them in person, you know, like talk about some things. I'm just be like, good, yeah, cool. See you next year. You know, because a lot of people do that, thinking that there's always going to be a next year. You know, especially when your grandparents start getting up there. Like my great grandmother passed away 2 years ago, and she was 108.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that as a kid, but I actually had the opportunity to be in the same room with my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my great grandmother.
Jeez.
You know, like 3 generations, and that didn't really hit until one time I was trying to get out of a family event. My dad was like, "Hey, you need to come to this event," and then he explained it like that, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like when I was talking to my friends, they were just like, "Great." They're like, "What the hell?" Like, you know, and I was like, "Oh, I never really thought about it like that." So that, I mean, that couldn't be more true, man. Where you gotta, you know, like cherish that time, and you know, and really soak that in, and honestly gain the wisdom too. You know, like I said, since they've been here 3 times as long as you have, you know, learn some things and maybe get some ideas. So, you know, we all have to make our own mistakes, but if you can get a little help and a little insight on the way in, you know, it helps you learn a lot more rather than focusing on your defeat too much. That's how I like to take it. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's 108 years. It's a long time.
Yeah. She was 3 years old when the Titanic sank.
So she's old enough to go like, that's not how that happened. Like,
yeah, I was. That's how I always put it in perspective. I was just like, what? I was like, so you were around for the Titanic sinking and then the movie.
yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
She's probably watching the movie. She's like, no.
Nah, just, I wasn't a redhead.
What is the meme with Rose? Like 84 years. What did she say?
I never watced it. It's
Yeah.
a
Oh,
really
man.
white movie. I'm black. I know you can't
it's a
tell
whole-
by like listening to me.
It's a mom meme. I know that one. And it's like, I'm in sleep.
The movie is frustrating. You know, just to throw out there, there was plenty of room on that door, Rose. Jack could have been up there.
That seems to be the consensus. Yeah.
Rose had a dude back home that she was
I
born
don't think
in.
2 people could
Probably.
fit that door. Not that shit door. And
She was like, Jack, you're just my side piece. You have to go.
Yeah.
You know, from Rose's perspective, it's not worth testing it.
Right?
Had that been me though, like plenty of fish in the sea, plenty
Yeah,
of Jacks
it
in
would've
the
been
sea,
like
one
Jack
Rose.
With your
I'm about to say there's about to be a
ass,
Jack
yeah.
in the sea for sure. He floated to the bottom.
I'd been like, look, dude, I gotta make it.
But if Jack's name had been Io, then I know Rose would have saved him.
He would have saved him, put it right up on the door.
Jack looks tired.
Tired.
Jack might have just slipped into the water.
Hold on, Jack.
Jack might have just slipped into the water anyways at this point.
All right, well, I'll
As all of us, I'm sure.
we about to say.
That all of us would probably slip into the water at this point. It was a joke. It's 1 a.m. You can
It
do
is.
whatever you were doing.
Well, since it is
Never
1 a.m.,
mind.
I do want to get to that point in the episode where I asked the artists, as you've heard on the other episodes, where I asked them because my biggest point for making the podcast was to talk to different artists from different fields, just for many different listeners that maybe are discouraged or maybe think that they can't pull off because of course with like the media and everything, and plus overstimulation because with my biggest thing on social media was with people always post the happiness and the good things they do, but very few post the work it takes to get to those achievements. So what I like to ask the artists is what could they say is maybe like a word of encouragement from your own experience of maybe if they're feeling down on it, what could you tell them to maybe give them a little push?
My number one thing is like seek community. Like whatever the hell that looks like for you, whatever the people are, not necessarily the people that you might feel the most like naturally drawn to, but like who are the people that make you feel like, oh, this is where I grow best. Like, this is the soil that I need to be in. Because I was uncomfortable as shit when I came to write about now. Like, had nothing to do with Amir. Amir was, like, gracious and welcoming, and he's amazing.
Same. I mean, that's like a super...
But it was just really intimidating. But it's just kind of like...
even in a casual sense.
And just, like, it's your... For me, like... I don't identify as a writer, but like I know it's important for my survival and to be surrounded by people who are like, hey, let's meet up and write. You know, like that's important to me. That's life-giving. That's life-saving.
Do you identify as a poet?
No.
I was curious, in general.
What would it take for you to what
we
qualifies
talk about these
someone?
Titles and you know,
I think people get to define
that,
themselves. It's not. I think there's like the dick in me. That's just like the same reason I don't identify as a Christian. Like dude, too many of you motherfuckers running around fucking it up for the rest of us. Like I'll stretch it to say like, oh, like I believe in artists. Like, you know, I think I'm multifaceted. I really like how Io says it. I contain. Like he didn't come up with it, but it just.
Go get it.
One of the people. But the whole, like, I contain multitudes. Like, like, I'm going to school for social work. Like, I do a shit ton for my community. I love volunteering as a child advocate and, like, you know,
it's difficult
stuff like
to
that.
narrow it down in any sort of
And the fun, like, part is, like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I have no interest.
You just don't. I don't think anybody could narrow you down into a category, girl. Don't worry about it.
People try.
That's never going to cease. You do a really amazing job though standing outside of that. So there's no conforming in your corner.
That's what I said. I make time.
It's
like
not
didn't occur to me.
necessary. You're just building to you.
It's actually really cool that you're focused more on the message and the content than just the title. You know, it's like read the book. Don't just look at the cover and toss it aside.
And you prove it time and again.
Yeah.
Just through your work. Yeah.
I don't handle compliments well, so we're gonna switch this over to.
I don't know. But I love giving them what they're due. Like,
thanks, guys.
I don't give them fucking no reasons. You know me.
What about you, Amir?
Yeah, chime in.
What advice would you give to people coming into their artistry?
Maybe even struggling with it.
Yeah.
Go to a lot of open mics.
Man.
And find where it feels right for you. You know, I feel like people tell you to read a lot. They're correct. You know, they tell you, find community. That's absolutely correct. They tell you, to learn this, learn that. All of that's right. But I would also say just go do it. You know what I mean? Whatever you think it looks like, whatever you want to share, just do it. Don't worry about having to mark off some checklist until you're prepared to necessarily do it, But of course, like, there's etiquette to everything, so just don't be a dick about it. But other than that, I would just say pursue it. If you want to paint, start doing it.
Yeah, just jump in the pool.
Just jump in the pool and learn how to swim.
Start doggy paddling.
Maybe ease into the pool. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, the 3 foot, go at 3 foot in, and then it goes
4
deeper on the other end. You just,
like the slanted pool. You're just gonna
that's
ease
right.
into the deep end.
That's right, slanted pool.
All right. Well, cool. That's really cool. I really like how just through poetry, y'all's community comes together, and you guys always support each other. And y'all are also very supportive to just new people that get on the mic. It's really cool, especially at Coastal Soul Proletariat, whenever someone new comes on. And especially when they talk about how nervous they are up front. Yeah. But then everybody's just snapping and clapping and just, come on, poet.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like everybody's nervous. I'm nervous every time.
Yeah.
2 years later, every time.
It doesn't really go away. But one of my mentors got me to turn that nervousness into, he's just like, oh, no, you're not nervous. That's just how excited you are. And I was just like, what? I don't know. But the more I kept thinking about that, whenever I'd get in that mode, and especially if I was nervous, before going on stage to play with the band or anything, I just use that and get hyped up and kind of weird out my bandmates sometimes. I'm just like, whoa, start wooing, and they're like, what are you doing? I'm just like, I'm just getting hyped because there's nothing else to do but get hyped. So let's just get hyped and
I
do
love
it.
it.
Just take that, use that energy because, it's getting bent up, your chest feels pressure and you're like, you just got to get that out.
Yeah.
Just breathe and just go for it. Like you're saying, just try it. If you mess up, instead of focusing on your loss, see where you can learn. I got it on my board.
That's
Humble
it.
the Poet. Y'all know Humble the Poet? That guy's dope. Y'all should look up Humble the Poet. He's dope. But it's not win or lose, it's win or learn. I got it on my
That guy's
board.
dope.
I love it.
He is dope.
I just appreciate your thorough.
She was making fun of my Mike Tyson quote I had in here last time as well.
What was
When
that?
I say it out loud, I am totally giving props to it. I am not making fun of it. If I'm making fun of it, I promise you it'll be much more apparent than me just repeating it.
It was a Mike Tyson
Just
quote
saying.
was you have to be the champion before you can become the champion. Meaning like you have to have the mind state before you can just do it. Just because when people go into big responsibilities of just success or succeeding and they're not mentally prepared for it, it can potentially be destructive. So that was mainly his point about it, because Mike Tyson says some things sometimes, but there's a lot of gold in what he says, because that is even though his punch in his prime could kill a cow, and that's a real stat. Y'all should look it up. It's crazy.
Oh wow.
But even though he has that power, he is like one of like the most intelligent, gentle people on the planet.
I love that.
Yeah. So you never, because he had pet pigeons in New York that he raised on top of a building.
That is not sanitary.
Yeah, it's not very sanitary at all. Pigeons are
Lots
gross.
of patience.
But lots of patience. Yeah, but he has a lot of care, and he actually does have a pet tiger. That is a real thing.
It's not safe.
That's not safe.
I don't know that. I don't know any of this.
Thank you so much for having us. On
Yeah. I
this
was just about to say, what? I really appreciate y'all coming on. I know it's getting late.
This has been cool. It's a nice setup. Thank you.
Yeah, and honestly, man, and anytime you want to come on, do anything right about now,
Thank
shout
you
it
very
out.
much.
This is my artist community that I have established, and I'm trying to grow. And like I said, I'm planning some more events in the future, and definitely some poetry events, because this is something my friend Cloud Style Terrell. This is something he got me into when we were in high school, just being a part of the scene, and I just want to give back to all the art scenes where I can. Art is art. I don't care what it is. I love all art.
Awesome.
All right, so Amir,
All of it.
Torrina, Emily, appreciate y'all. Where can we find
Thank
y'all on
you.
social media, events, and well, not events, but like your organizations?
Sure. Just at WAN Poetry right about now. WAN Poetry on anything.
And it's easier by hashtags, because our Instagram's different than our Facebook, but hashtag Iconoclast Artists. And so that's ICONOARTISTS. It's plural, because we're doing it together.
Absolutely. Also, Artisan Depth Spelling Bee coming up soon. Everyone gets stoked.
Real talk.
I'm low-key BSing, but that'd be
That's
cool.
a great idea, actually.
Oh, we should do a spelling
There's
bee
so
for the kids.
many different bands and this and that. You got so much shit. Yeah.
That'd be rad.
There's only 4 kids amongst us all.
That sounds amazing.
I'm so all of a sudden I'm like,
Get a bunch of artists, make them spell the words they use.
Everyone's
out.
This wasn't a thing.
It'll be
where
fun.
That's a slam I could get into, a spelling slam.
Spelling slam. All right.
I could get into a sleeping slam.
Sleeping slam, spelling
Yeah,
slam.
that sounds
Stay tuned for all the slams.
Even though
I
don't
appreciate
have to
y'all.
sleep, I'm just
Thanks, Beth.
manifesting my own.
Artists of Death Podcast, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the things. Give us some constructive criticism, like I always say. Let us know what you want to hear, or maybe something you don't hear you'd like to hear, or just be in touch with us on our social media. Be sure to follow these artists. We will link their stuff in the description below. And y'all have a good night. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Artisan Depth Podcast, motivating creative minds through artistic exploration. If you like what you're hearing, please be sure to give us a rating or a positive review. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us at vonpatrickarts@gmail.com. That is VONPATRICK@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you.